Yes, despedida. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. I hope your day and your week have been going very well so far. In ancient times, the oracle was a source of wisdom and fortune telling for the people. In modern times, he gives out football plays. Welcome to the NFL Oracle. Week 3 of the NFL is officially here. And as always, guys, I've got some really great picks to go ahead and share with you. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. All right, guys, with a new day and a new week comes some new opportunities to go ahead and make some money. I have a lot of picks, as always, to go ahead and share with you guys in this week's NFL slate. We have 15 straight bets, followed by a few teasers and parlays as well. But first, guys, before we dive into this week's picks, one more time, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button down below. We have a ton of great stuff coming out on the channel all football season long. I've got tons of college football videos coming out this week. I've got 4 Clash of the Titans videos. I've got our overall week 4 college football picks video. So much stuff. And then the NFL H2H is already out. Go ahead and check that out if you haven't already. Sunday night football picks. And then now we're starting this new tradition every Sunday morning where I'll be going live and doing NFL player props. So it's all free. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. You're missing out if you haven't, if we're being honest here. So much great content between myself, Evan, Trey, on a weekly basis here. And then one more thing before we go on to the picks here, guys. I don't want to spend too much time here in the intro, but I do want to go ahead and recap how we did last week. Now, the one thing I do like to preach here, and we all preach here on Guy Boston Sports, is transparency. And let's be honest, we did not have a good week last week. We had a few wins there, here and out, here throughout the slate. I mean, Packers, Bills, Patriots, over the Panthers Cardinals game. We had Chargers, Eagles. I mean, there were a few wins, but a lot of losses as well. Overall, in our straight bet category, we scrolled down here. We went 6-8 last week. We're now 13-17 on the year. I know these numbers look really bad, and they are really bad, but we're so early in the season. We started last year off a little slow as well. We are going to make this money. I know this is intimidating, -6 units already, but I'm rest assured we will make that money back and then some by the end of the year. We always do. Parlay is kind of the same story. Went 0-3 on parlays. I put a lot of faith in Denver Broncos. The Broncos really killed me this week. And I made the cardinal rule of putting them in a couple too many bets. But it is what it is. But we did actually have a couple of teasers. So we had the 4-leg teaser plus 180 that did cash. And we also had the big tease, which obviously we did our gift card giveaway, that cash. So it wasn't a complete loss. Like I said, we did end up actually going up 1.8 units in our teaser section. So we are down quite a bit on the year to start. But we have had some positives in there scattered throughout. We'll definitely do better this week. I can just feel it already. And speaking of the gift card giveaway, shout out to JRep12. Commented big T's last week. You officially won a free $25 Amazon gift card. Make sure to go ahead and DM me on Instagram at TASOSPicks, and we'll go ahead and get you that gift card. Again, I can't help you guys out until you message me individually on Instagram. That's at TASOSPicks over on Instagram. So shout out to JRep12. If you didn't win this past week, don't worry, guys. We're going to have plenty of opportunities all season long to go ahead and win some giveaways. We've been talking long enough, guys. Let's go ahead and dive into our Week 3 NFL picks. All right, guys, starting things off, our first pick in this week's NFL slate, we're looking at Thursday Night Football, Dolphins at Bills, 8:15 p.m. kickoff here. In our first pick in this week's slate, we're going with a very easy pick, in my opinion, the Buffalo Bills -10.5 on the spread. I'm grabbing this personally for -114 over on Novig. But again, guys, these plays are available on a number of different sports books for varying odds. As always, make sure to go ahead and shop around for the best sportsbook odds available. Again, it is a very important part of the process, but thanks to Outlier, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, the sponsor of today's video, they are fantastic in terms of giving you guys a lot of options. So I'm grabbing it for -114 over on Novig. And guys, do not worry if you miss any plays. All the final plays will be down below in the pinned comment, as well as we will have timestamps in the description to go ahead and jump around from game to game. In terms of this one, I don't really feel like I need to talk too much about this game because it just seems really easy to me. Now, the one, I guess, negative is that when these games come across this easy, sometimes some crazy stuff can happen, but I don't think so in this spot. Look, at Buffalo, they are one of the best teams, if not maybe even the best team in the NFL right now. Offensively, we know they're great with Josh Allen, and defensively, they're not a bad team either. Miami is on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, 0-2 to start the year with losses to the Colts and Patriots, who are not exactly the masterclass of even just the AFC, let alone the NFL. They already had a players-only meeting after the first game. They got some special team stuff, some defensive stuff. They've given up 33 points in each of their first 2 games of the season defensively. which is, by the way, tied for one of the worst marks in the NFL. I mean, there's really not anything they're doing well right now. You know, they have a decent pass rush, I guess. They're tied for 15th in the league with 2 sacks per game, as you can see on the right side of the screen there. And, you know, everything. I mean, passing yards, rushing yards. Again, their pass rush is okay, not great. And then on the offensive side, though, it doesn't get much better. I mean, they're 26th in scoring. You know, their rushing offense is almost non-existent. Their passing offense is okay. But considering the weapons they have, the names they have, this team should be a lot better. I think Mike McDaniel, it's not even I think it's a given at this point. He's going to be the first coach fired this year. Could even be this week. This team has so many issues. And some teams that have a slow start, it's just a matter of time. You know, things can start to gel, so things will click together. For Miami, I don't think it's something where it can just kind of be solved in-house. It's going to have to take some massive changes in the offseason in the upcoming years to fix some of these messes in Miami. McDaniel's going to be gone. I don't know what Tua's future is. I think Tyreek Hill will be gone. They're going to end up going into a rebuild here in Miami very soon. And the one spot that you don't want to be in if you're Miami is after the 2 losses they've had, to then have a short week, having 3 or 4 day turnaround, traveling to Buffalo, take on a Bills team that historically has dominated the Dolphins. I mean, just looking at the last 5 matchups, Buffalo has won each of the last 5, but honestly, Buffalo has dominated this rivalry for the last decade, if we're being totally honest. I think they've won like 15 of the last 17 against Miami. These teams are just on the complete opposite ends of the spectrum. I know the spread is high, and that's a bit worrisome, but Buffalo with the home field advantage, which is definitely a home field advantage, these are 2 different worlds where the Dolphins are living on, where the Bills are living on, and I just think Buffalo will take care of business. Minus 10.5, very high point spread, but I still like Buffalo in the spot. All right, guys, the next game we're going to go ahead and take a look at. We're now moving on to the Sunday slate. We've got Colts at Titans, 1 p.m. kickoff. And I'm going with the Colts here, -3 on the spread. Now, it's -145 on BetMGM. Now, I think the actual spread itself is like -4 at this point, even 4.5. It looks like it's raising to. I'm willing to buy the 1.5 off. It's one thing about me, and if you watch my videos, you notice I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of value to get that extra point or 2 off, because I've been burned so many times betting on whether it be college football or NFL, where that extra point means so much more in the grand scheme of things. So buying the extra 1.5 here, I think it's definitely worth it. Yeah, it's -145, and you're not going to make as much profit with this play unless you put more into it, but I think it's worth it to take that extra 1.5 off. I think a lot of people are still in that stage of not sure what to do with the Colts. Do you trust them? They've looked pretty damn good. They beat the brakes off the Dolphins in week 1, and then they beat a pretty impressive, in my opinion, Broncos team. And, you know, I'm impressed. I think Daniel Jones, look, I don't think he's a great quarterback, but when you put him behind a solid offensive line, you give him a good running back, you give him some weapons, you give him a defense and a coach, all these things, he's going to play well. And I think the Colts look pretty good. Tennessee, on the other hand, they're a frisky team. Like, they have some fight into them. You can see that in the first 2 games. But at the end of the day, they just don't have the talent. This is still very early in their rebuild, whether you're talking about their offense or their defense. They just don't have the talent quite yet to go ahead and win these games. But like I said, the Colts offense has been impressive. They're first right now in the NFL in yards per play. The Miami game obviously helps, but they did torch a Broncos defense last week that was supposed to be one of the better defenses in the NFL. One key thing here to note too, the Colts offense here, 3rd right now in rushing yards per game, 161 rushing yards per game. That's been consistent, whether the Dolphin game or the Broncos game. They've had success running the football with Jonathan Taylor. Tennessee right now, their run defense looks pretty abysmal. That could be a big advantage the Colts have in this matchup. So, you know, and then the Titans offense has been a bit of a mess here to start the year. So I think the Colts definitely have the advantage. I think this team is legit. Now, these AFC South rivalry games, they get a little loopy. You never really know what you're getting from them. But I do think the Colts are the better team. I think from a top to bottom standpoint, they are a better football team. I do think, even though they're on the road here against Tennessee, and you look at the last 2 matchups last year, you know, the Colts won both times, but these guys can get a little dicey here. You see a 3-point win for the Colts back on October 13th, an 8-point win for the Colts on December 22nd. I think the Titans are a better team, but I also think the Colts are a better team since then. So this is one where I was kind of like, ooh, this could be a game where Tennessee maybe plays spoiler. That being said, I do think the Colts, they're just such a talented team and better coached and in better form right now. I think they're going to take care of business against Tennessee. It could be a tighter game than people think, but I think -3, especially -3, the Colts should be able to go ahead and cover that line. All right, guys, this next pick might be one that surprises some people, but I really have a strong feeling about this game. The next game we're talking about is the Cincinnati Bengals at the Minnesota Vikings, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday, and I'm going with the Vikings -3 on the spread at home. This game is very interesting. It honestly was looking to be a pretty solid matchup in the preseason, and then Joe Burrow gets hurt. J.J. McCarthy gets hurt. Now we have Jake Browning versus Carson Wentz on 1 p.m. Sunday. It went from a very interesting game to a what is going on here game. That being said, and despite all the Carson Wentz criticism I know is going to come his way, I like Minnesota a lot in this spot. First and foremost, this Bengals offensive line, as they've already shown, is abysmal. I got Joe Burrow hurt in week 2. I kind of called that. I don't want to, say I called an injury, but it was pretty obvious from the start. Like, if this offensive line was going to let him get hit as much as they were, he's going to get hurt. This is a guy with an injury history to begin with. So it's a tough look. And now you're putting Jake Browning behind that same terrible offensive line going up against this Vikings pass rush, which is pretty dominant. We know Brian Flores loves to bring pressure. We'll see how Jake Browning does with that. They're second right now in the NFL in quarterback hurries defensively, which is pretty damn impressive. And for another note, they are one of the best pass defenses in the NFL through 2 weeks. Now, they played the Bears and they played the Falcons, Caleb Williams and Michael Penix. To be fair, this is Jake Browning, so I don't know how much better you want to put him than those quarterbacks. But they are top 5 pass defense. Their weakness has been against the run. Good thing is they're playing a Bengals run offense that has not been very good at all. I think Minnesota's defense is going to carry them here in this game, but I think Carson Wentz, being the veteran that he is, and we know how Kevin O'Connell, he's very good with these veteran quarterbacks. We've seen it with Sam Darnold. We've seen it with guys like Josh Dobbs and other quarterbacks in the past where they find a way to take these older guys who have kind of flunked out in other spots and kind of revitalize their careers. I think that Carson Wentz, I'm not saying he's going to be a great quarterback. I'm not going to say he's going to light it up, but this Bengals defense isn't all that great to begin with. And then you put Carson Wentz with Justin Jefferson and these weapons and Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones and TJ Hawkinson. I think this Vikings team is overall the better squad. Yes, I personally would probably take Jake Browning at this point over Wentz, even though I am a Wentz apologist. That being said, I just think Minnesota, their defense is so strong. Jake Browning's going to have a really rough day in the pocket. And I think that Carson Wentz can make just enough plays. The key thing here is, can he not make mistakes? Limit the mistakes. If he starts throwing turnover after turnover and bad pick after bad pick, we could be in trouble here. But I think that they're going to be smart. Kevin O'Connell, one of the best coaches in the NFL. They're going to be a bit conservative on offense, but good enough to beat this Bengals team. I think the Bengals are in a bit of trouble without Joe Burrow here. They just don't have the defense nor the depth on offense to deal with some of the injuries specifically to Joe Burrow. So I like Minnesota -3 here for -105 on BetMGM. You're getting pretty good value on it. All right, guys, moving right along here. We have an NFC South showdown here. We got Falcons at Panthers. 1 p.m. kickoff. This game is always a bit of a crapshoot every year, regardless if the Panthers are good or the Falcons are good. These games are always kind of wild, usually on the higher scoring side here. I am going to rock with the Falcons here, -5.5 on the spread, which actually is a plus money play right now over on Novig, +108. But again, you guys can pick for a number of different sports books to go ahead and bet this one. But for me, Novig at +108, pretty good value. I got to be honest, I've been pretty impressed with Atlanta this year. They're 1-1, but if Younghoe Koo makes that kick at the end of the Bucs game, I think they probably win that game in overtime. I've been pretty impressed with Atlanta. They took a Bucs team that looks pretty damn good to the brink, and then they beat the brakes off the Vikings, who looked decent, at least in the second half of that Bears game. There's still some question marks, especially because, the Bucs game, you can say, okay, they played a good team. The Vikings, we still don't really know what to make of them. But I've been impressed. Michael Penix looked pretty damn good for the most part. A bit of an ugly game on Sunday Night Football, but a win nonetheless. And they held the Vikings offense to just 6 points in that game. This is coming from a Falcons defense last year that was pretty damn bad. Now they're on the road taking on a Panthers team that, I'm going to be honest, they have come out flat out the gates. Now, some people I've seen predicting this is the week that Carolina finally kind of figures it out. I don't know. Bryce Young, who obviously finished the year off solid last year, the first couple weeks, he looks just like he did in the beginning of last season, where it's a lot of bad throws, some bad mistakes. The numbers are not looking great offensively. They're just as bad as they are defensively. If it wasn't for Chuba Hubbard, this Panthers team would look abysmal. And I just don't know if this is something they can fix. Their defense, I think, was going to be bad all year long from the get-go. And you got Michael Penix, who in this Falcons offense, which looks pretty decent right now. They got a running back, a stud running back. They've got some good weapons. Michael Penix looking sharp thus far. Pretty good overall. I just don't think this works out for Carolina. I'm going to be honest with you. Looking at their defense right now, tied for 21st in scoring. They really have a run. Their run defense has been horrible. And guess what? This is the 4th best rushing team through 2 weeks in the NFL in Atlanta. 143.5 yards per game on the ground. Pretty good offensive line numbers too. They're not giving up many pressures to their quarterback. Not giving up a lot of sacks. Obviously, Carolina not really creating much pressure to begin with. So Penix is going to have time in the pocket to go ahead and throw. And with the weapons they have, I just think Carolina is going to have a bad day. And again, Their offense, not great. And again, look at this. Falcons run defense, which was a bit of a weakness last year, pretty good overall. And the Panthers, they can't run the ball anyways. So, again, like I said, turnovers, they're turning the ball over at a high rate as well. Atlanta getting a lot of takeaways early in the year. Their pass rush has been pretty decent. Again, considering how bad it was last year, it's pretty impressive. Questions about level of competition and stuff like that for sure for Atlanta. But I have been pretty impressed. And for plus 108, for them to win by 6, I think they definitely go ahead and do that. All right, guys, we are cruising right along here. Our next game we're looking at is Raiders at Commanders, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. And this one, I'm going to be honest, is more of a pick where I'm fading the away team more than I'm riding with the home team. I'm going with the Commanders here, minus 2.5 on the spread. Again, I like to buy a point off of it to get a little bit more value there. For me, in terms of maybe not know more value, maybe I'm not saying that correctly. Better chance of hitting, I think, is a better way to go ahead and say that. So the actual spread's 3.5. I'm taking this for minus 2.5. Minus 138 over on Nova. Again, sacrificing a little bit of value in order to have a better chance of hitting this bet. The line movement, I mean, this game opened at 7.5. It then moved down to 3.5, jumped up to 5.5, and then moved down to 3.5. A lot of this doing because of, first of all, the Commanders' performances, the Raiders' performances, and then ultimately the Jaden Daniels injury really playing a factor here in this line. I'm sending this point out right now. Regardless if it's Jaden Daniels or Marcus Mariota, I think the Commanders win this game and cover the spread. If you watched my preseason Oracle video, I was on this point all year long. Yes, the Raiders beat the Patriots week 1, but I think that was a huge overreaction. I think that was more to do with the Patriots and how inefficient they were in week 1 and trying to figure out a new system and new team and new coach and all that stuff. That win was more about that and less about the Raiders being a great football team. I'm not saying they're a terrible football team, although Monday Night Football against the Chargers, they look pretty bad. I just don't think this is a very good football team. I think at best they're mediocre. Their offensive line really looks like a mess right now. Geno Smith, who did look really strong against the Patriots, came out completely flat against the Chargers. 3 picks, looked very sloppy. Their defense has been solid. I wouldn't say it's a bad defense, although I thought it was going to be, and I guess remains to be seen. But the Chargers kind of dominated that game from start to finish. Although the Raiders were within striking distance, they just couldn't do anything with it. Their offense right now, not great. And even their scoring defense tied for 30th. I'm just not totally impressed with it, which, we'll see what that means for them here in this game. Might be a little issue with the numbers there. I don't think that's correct. That 33 points per game average, they gave up 13 to the Patriots and 20 to the Chargers. So I don't know how they're getting 33. So that number might not be completely accurate. They'll have to take a look at that. But the rest of the numbers look pretty decent here. I'm not sure why that one seems to be okay. We'll have to message them about that. I don't know why that is. But anyways, point still stands. I don't love their defense, and although their offense has been okay, and this number 2 is not correct. Don't know what's going on with that one. The other numbers I fact checked. They look good. This one though, the Raiders, I don't know if they're looking from last year, but they have not been scoring. They scored 20 versus the Patriots, and they scored 6 versus the Chargers. So they are not averaging 29 points per game. I don't know if these are last year's numbers, but I don't know what's going on there. Apologies for that, for the quick little mix-up there. Either way, we'll ignore the numbers there for a second. Point remains, I think Washington, even with Mariota, I think they have enough on both sides of the football to go ahead and keep this Raiders team at bay. Raiders offensive line looks like a mess. They haven't been able to get Ashton Jeanty going so far. They don't really have a great passing offense, especially when Brock Bowers looks seriously injured. He shouldn't have played against the Chargers. Now you have a shorter week getting ready to go on the road and take on the Commanders. If Brock Bowers isn't healthy, you're now relying, and if Ashton Jeanty can't get involved in the way they want to get involved, you're relying on Jacoby Myers, which is not bad, but then after him, it's a bunch of either rookies or completely unproven wide receivers, and you can see this passing offense is not great. They don't really have the most deepest arsenal of weapons. So if Brock Bowers isn't healthy, Geno Smith could have a really rough time. So I just don't trust this Raiders team. Again, this pick is less about I love the Commanders because I don't love the fact that Jaden Daniels, even if he plays, is injured. It's more about I don't trust this Raiders team right now, and going on the road, short week, even with Mariota, and the Commanders should be able to go ahead and take care of business. From minus 138, I think the value is still there on this play. I think the Commanders at home, even with a backup quarterback, should be able to beat a Raiders team that, I'm going to be honest, they're not that good. All right, guys, next up we have Texans at Jaguars, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. I'm rocking with the Texans on the money line here. If you watch H2H, you'll know I'm high on the Texans for this week's game. I'm grabbing this for plus 110 over on Nova. Can you imagine the preseason telling you the Texans were going to be a underdog against the Jaguars in week 3? I would have been surprised if you told me that. Houston, let's be honest, they have not been very good. Now, I did, just to let you guys know, I've been very closely looking at the numbers now because obviously that Raiders game, some of the data points were off. For this one, the numbers I fact-checked, they are accurate. So offensively right now, the Texans, they are the lowest scoring offense in the NFL. The key problem with Houston right now, their offense has not been able to get going. Now, to their credit, they played the Buccaneers and they played the Rams, who are both 2-0. You see here for strength of schedule, tied with the Chiefs for first. Okay, the teams they played combined 4-0. Tough start to the year for Houston in terms of the schedule. And that, the Bucs defense isn't great, but it's two tough games off the rip. To be fair, Houston's supposed to be one of those better teams. They should be able to hang. And to their credit, they lost by 5 to the Rams and they lost by 3 to the Bucs. So they kept in those games. Despite the fact their offense was absolute dog doo-doo, they did hang around. And that's because their defense is so damn dominant. This is by far the 3 games they played the weakest team. Even though Jacksonville, they looked pretty good in week 1 and they held their own for the most part in week 2. This is a new-look Jaguars team, new coach. They still clearly have some issues on the offensive side they need to go ahead and sort out. I just trust the Texans a little bit more. I think their defense is so dominant that Jacksonville's offense could have a hard time to get going. They could really have a hard time getting things going here. Maybe I kind of stumbled my words there. Apologies. Key point being, I think Jacksonville's offense, they've had 2 weak defense. They played Carolina and Cincinnati to start the year off. This is a completely different ballpark taking on the Texans defense. They're going to put pressure on Trevor Lawrence. That offensive line, I still have some question marks about. This pass rush is very, very lethal. Trevor Lawrence, I think under pressure could struggle in this spot big time. And for the Texans offense, I don't know if the Jaguars defense is necessarily a blessing for them, but it's definitely not as strong as the Rams defense. And I think, the Bucs defense will, I don't think they have a great defense in Tampa, but it's better. I think that Houston's going to be a very tight game. This is not going to be a game where they dominate, but I think Texans, their defense is so damn good. It should give them the opportunity, as long as CJ Stroud can play halfway decent, as long as they can get something going offensively. Honestly, 17 points could win you this game. 20 points could win you this game. Can Houston get there? Remains to be seen, genuinely. It's crazy to say. Imagine 2 years ago with CJ Stroud saying, yeah, this team could struggle to get to 20 points. They haven't broken 20 points yet this season, which is crazy to say. CJ Stroud, in his rookie year, looked like one of the best young quarterbacks. Since then, has not done as well. Granted, the offensive line has been abysmal the last couple of years, but I think Houston's defense is so good, and I think there's no way Houston, they're too well coached, their defense is too dominant for them to drop to 0-3. Although Jacksonville, I think they're going to have an impressive year, especially compared to last year. I think Houston's defense is too dominant that they will not be able to lose this one. I think they're going to win this one here for plus 110. The value is certainly there, and I think Trevor Lawrence could have a rough day, which could mean a win for the Texans. Bit of a coin toss, which again, I wouldn't have predicted in the early parts of the year, but I think this is the weakest team Houston has played by far, and they'll take care of business in this one. All right, guys, next up, I absolutely hate betting against my own team, my own fandom, but I have to if I think the pick is worth it. You got to be non-biased when it comes to sports betting. We got Steelers at Patriots, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday, and I am going with the Steelers on the money line here, which I'm grabbing for minus 117 over on NoVig. Look, New England, they're coming off a win against the Dolphins on Sunday. To call that impressive, I don't know if I would say impressive. They barely hung on and beat a Dolphins team that's probably going to fire their coach after this week. How impressive is that? I don't really know. But I think there's some clear struggles right now with defense. They're giving up 23.5 points per game right now, which is honestly not great. There's definitely some weaknesses. They're getting thrown all over. Their run defense hasn't been bad, but their passing defense, they have been getting thrown all over, whether it be Tua or Geno Smith. Dolphins, if you include special teams also, they did score 27 points in that game. So New England giving up a healthy amount of points here early in the year. This defense still taking some time to gel, although I will say their pass rush has been much, much better, which if you're betting Pat's money line here could be the key, them getting pressure on Rodgers, which is what Seattle did a decent amount last week. I just really, and the Seahawks, and the Steelers, not Seahawks, the Steelers defense, they've been pretty poor. I don't know what's going on there. Obviously the Jets scored a healthy amount of points, and then Seattle scored. They've given up 2 30-plus point games to start the year versus the Jets and the Seahawks. That's a bit of a problem when New England's offense has looked okay. I mean, not bad. Their passing offense has clearly been the strength right now. But ultimately, I know most of what I'm saying right now is not really going in the favor of Steelers' money line. I think New England has a lot of kinks to work out. I think this is still very much a work in progress. It's going to take time for them to go ahead and figure out, didn't mean to switch screens there. Going to take some time to go ahead and figure out some things on both the offensive and defensive side of the football. I think Pittsburgh in the spot, they have the more experienced quarterback. I do think defensively they have so many great pieces. They haven't played up to standard yet this year, but I think New England, they have a lot more question marks than the Steelers do right now. We'll see. I hope I'm wrong. I mean, I guess not. I'm betting on the Steelers, giving out the Steelers pick. So I would never bet against my own team personally. Listen, if I had to go ahead and make a pick, that's kind of where I went with in taking this line. If I had to go ahead and make a pick in this game, it'd be the Steelers, and that's why I'm giving it out to you guys. I think Pittsburgh is clearly the better team right now. Not by maybe a lot, because their defense, again, the Steelers' defense has not looked good, but I think they have the better coaching right now. No disrespect to Vrabel, but Tomlin obviously has been there, and especially Tomlin coming off a loss. Have you ever seen the betting numbers for Tomlin off a loss? It's phenomenal. I mean, he's going to go ahead and win this game, I think. I know I'm not really giving a lot of great reasons behind it. Maybe that's the Pats fan in me trying to justify the Patriots. But I do think Pittsburgh will win this game very narrowly. I think New England will keep it close. They're wearing the Patriot throwbacks too, which obviously, that gives them some extra style points. I just feel like when they wear those jerseys, they're a better team. Is that factual? No. But it feels like when they wear those jerseys, it feels like they can beat any team in the league. I just think Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers at the end of the day will make just enough plays to make the difference in this spot. So give me the Steelers on the money line, minus 117 again. This one's a bit of a toss-up. I don't know if I'm going to put a full unit on this one because I do think New England will hang around. I just think Pittsburgh, their defense will kind of figure some things out here against the Patriots in Week 3. All right, guys, next up we have Rams at Eagles, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. I'm going with the Rams here on the spread, plus 3.5. We jump over to the outlier screen. We're grabbing that for minus 110 over on Novig. Look, I think the Eagles still could probably win this game. I'm not even picking the Rams and necessarily saying the Rams will win. It's the reason why I'm taking the points and not the money line. The Eagles might be 2-0, but they've been playing some pretty tight games. 20-17, they beat the Chiefs. 24-20, beat the Cowboys. They've been winning, but they've been very tight in these ball games. Now, the Rams, on the other hand, they're also 2-0. Their defense look pretty solid. They haven't given up 20 points yet this season in a game. Their offense has been a bit up and down. But I think the Rams are going to keep this close. Obviously, these two teams met twice last year, once in the regular season, once in the playoffs. Now, the Eagles did win both matchups last season, but the most recent meeting in the playoffs, where I think the Eagles team last year was a little better than the one this year. I think the Rams team last year was not as good as the Rams teams this year. So I think the Rams have gotten better. The Eagles have dropped off a tiny bit. That game was within 6 points. It was pretty close. Playoff game on the road in Philly. I think the Rams are slightly better. The Eagles are slightly worse. I think the Rams can keep this within a field goal in this game. Again, the Eagles haven't really dominated anybody so far this year. The game's been very tight. That's a Chiefs game last week where, yes, they won, but there's a lot of opportunities for the Chiefs to win. I'm not going to say the Chiefs necessarily beat themselves more than the Eagles won that game because the Eagles did play well, specifically on the defensive side of the football. But there's some question marks with Philly's offense right now, and I'm very intrigued to see if they can get their ship righted in terms of the offense. I just don't know if the Rams' defense is necessarily the best team for that. Granted, they play the Titans and Texans offense, two of the worst offenses in the NFL so far this year. So take it with a grain of salt. But, their run defense, that's the big concern there, right? But their pass defense has been elite. They're the number one scoring defense right now. They have a really strong pass rush here. The Eagles, they're just not passing the football. If they can stop the run, we'll see, because Jalen Hurts, he just really hasn't been throwing it much. Now, they could be saving themselves. Maybe this is the game they kind of take the top off, and we'll see. But I think the Rams' defense is good enough, and their offense, although it hasn't been perfect, they are fourth in yards per play. The passing offense has been strong. I think the Rams' offense, mixed with their strong defense, should be able to keep this game close. Again, I'm not picking the Rams to win the game necessarily, but I think their defensive strength mixed with their offense should keep them in the ballpark of this game. Obviously, this is also the team that ended their year last year, so I think there's that revenge factor. The Rams want to come out here and beat the Eagles, same place where their season ended last year. I'm sure a lot of those guys in the locker room would love to come out here and make this a ball game. So, you're getting it for pretty good value at minus 110. The Eagles are still the Eagles, no doubt, but I think these games have been close. And I think the Rams are a good enough team where again, I'm not picking them to win the game, but cover the number. I think they definitely can do that. All right, guys, next up we have Jets at Bucs, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. I'm going with the over here, 43.5. We'll jump over back to the outlier screen. We're grabbing it for minus 108 on Novig. Here's the best odds available to me for this play. Look, I think this is a very similar play that I had last week. And same, I guess, reasoning behind. Last week, obviously, I took the Bills-Jets over that did not hit, but it came close. My thought process is kind of similar where I think Tampa Bay is going to score a healthy amount of points in this game. The Jets defense looks like they have some legitimate problems. They gave up, 34 points to the Steelers, followed that up with 30 points to the Bills. The Jets defense right now bottom 5 in the NFL in terms of points allowed per game. Their run defense has been abysmal. Their pass defense has been fine, not great. And now you're going against a Bucs offense that has been looking pretty decent despite the fact they've had a couple of tough games. Atlanta and Houston, not pushovers by any means, despite the fact their combined records 1-3. I think Tampa Bay is going to be able to score some points here in this one, specifically because their running game has looked so damn good and the Jets defense on the running side has been so damn bad. I think Tampa Bay will do most of the heavy lifting here, but I do think, and I know Justin Fields probably won't play. It's probably going to be Tyrod Taylor. I think they have enough weapons on offense where they should be able to go ahead and score some points. I keep mentioning the Bucs' defensive numbers actually have been decent, but I'm not trusting it. I know this defense was not that great last year. I knew they were going to be better this year. I think them being a top 10 or top 11 scoring defense, though, I don't know if that'll stick. And even still, their pass defense, 22nd right now in yards allowed through the air. Their run defense has been pretty good. To be fair, I don't all the Justin Fields stands, maybe earmuffs here. I think Tyrod Taylor might actually be a better passing quarterback than Justin Fields. If you saw how he played last week, I mean, granted, Taylor came in and didn't look much better. But I think that the passing offense will be fine. I think the Jets can score at least. They scored 10 points last week. I think the Bucs defense is not as good as the Bills. I think the Jets can contribute at least 14 points, 13, 14 points. And at that point, we need Tampa Bay to score around 30, which I think they should be able to do. Again, so far this year, look at their scoring totals, 23 against the Falcons, 20 against the Texans. Jets defense is weaker than both of those defenses. I think Tampa Bay should be able to go ahead and cash it. And the over has hit, by the way, insight provided by Outlier. The over has hit in 7 of the Jets' last 9 games. So high totals for the Jets, and the Buccaneers usually are a high-scoring team. So I think the over at 43.5, pretty decent line here. By the way, guys, I want to take this time real quick before we carry on with the rest of today's picks to go ahead and shout out the sponsor of today's video, Outlier. They are the best sports betting tool on the market, no doubt about it. They are fantastic. Everything you've been seeing in this video are brought to you by Outlier. All the data, all the insights, everything, and there's so much more. I mean, I'm only showing you guys a little bit here of what they have, but they have the public betting numbers. They have so much information available to you guys, and they have insights, injuries, line movements, so much stuff. They have EV plus betting, arbitrage betting, so much stuff. So it really is great. And if you want to be a smart sports bettor and a good sports bettor, you got to have the right tool by your side. And Outlier is the best tool that money can provide. So make sure to go ahead and check out. We have a special offer down below, link in the description and in the pinned comment to go ahead and use Outlier for a 7-day free trial. Again, it's a fantastic tool, and you get to try it out for free for 7 days when you use our link down below. So either in the description or the pinned comment will be that link for Outlier. And again, check it out. Use the link, 7-day free trial. Play around with Outlier. See for yourself if you like it. But I'm telling you guys, if you do stick with it, it will make you in the long run a smarter sports bettor and ultimately a better sports bettor. So thank you to Outlier for sponsoring today's video and being a proud sponsor of Guy Boston Sports. All right, guys, next up, another one we don't have to spend too much time on here. It's Packers at Browns, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. I'm taking the Packers here, -6.5. Again, the actual spread is 7.5. I'm shaving a point off the spread here, and I'm still grabbing it for -142 on Novig. Again, a little more juice on the play than normal, but I think it's definitely worth it, to be honest, grabbing that extra point off. Green Bay should win this game by 10, if we're being real. This Browns team just got blown out by the Ravens last week. There's no reason why this Green Bay team shouldn't do the same, but things get a little dicey here in the NFL, any given Sunday kind of thing. The Browns defense is still pretty strong, although it didn't look too strong versus Baltimore. It is still a strong defense, and the Packers offense, as great as their defense has been, Green Bay's offense still has some question marks. I don't think this is necessarily the greatest offense. Now, they have been pretty good so far this year. They've scored exactly 27 points in both games this year, which does put them top 10 in the NFL. But like I said, they have an injury to Jaden Reed now. We'll see. I think their offense still has some stuff to work on to improve. But their defense has been legit. I mean, top 3 scoring defense in the NFL. They dominate against the run, dominate against the pass, dominate in pretty much any category. It's that reason why I think they're going to win this game and kill them. This Browns offense is not good to begin with. Put this Packers defense in front of them, it's not going to get much better. The only reason why I'm taking the extra point off and why I'd be a little concerned is maybe that Browns defense can slow this offense down and keep the game tight. But if you take the extra point off, the Packers should win this game by a touchdown at the very least. Again, 7.5, honestly, you might be good with that too. I've been burned so many times. That extra point insurance is important, especially when you see all these kickers that have been missing all these extra points this year. That extra point could be the difference between a win and a loss. You're sacrificing some value, absolutely, but I think Green Bay is such a good team, they should be able to go ahead and win by touchdown. Their defense alone should win them this game, as long as Jordan Love is halfway decent versus what is a pretty decent Browns defense. I know, again, last week they got killed. They're pretty good. Passing yards allowed, rushing yards allowed. They're on the lower end of the spectrum through 2 weeks. So I think Green Bay -6.5. Pretty strong play. All right, guys, we're now moving on to the 4 o'clock afternoon slate on Sunday. And this next pick here is going to be controversial. A lot of you guys are going to probably make fun of me for this pick, but I'm going with them again. We got Broncos Chargers, 4:05 p.m. kickoff. I'm going with the Denver Broncos here on the spread, +3.5. I'm grabbing that for -130 on Novig. Again, the line I believe was actually 2.5. buying that extra point, giving myself a little extra room there. And for minus 138, I'm still willing to go ahead and take that despite the slightly decreased value there. Call me crazy. They burned me definitely so far this year in both week 1 and week 2 in terms of the spread. They're 0-2 against the spread already this year. They definitely burned me, but I am rocking with the Broncos here plus 3.5. The key line is 3.5. If it's 2.5, I'm not taking this. I probably would lean maybe Chargers. But if you give me 3.5 points here, Sean Payton historically does struggle a little bit early in the year, these first couple weeks, whether you go back to his time with the Saints or his time with the Broncos. The first couple weeks have always been a bit of a struggle, and then he kind of clicks it together, usually around week 3 or 4. So what I'm hoping for here is that Sean Payton now has a couple weeks under his belt. Coming off that loss to the Colts last week, he'll make the necessary adjustments and get this team going back on the right track. I still like their pieces on both offense and defense. I just think they haven't played up to their expectations so far this year. And I think this Chargers team, obviously, they've been playing very strong the first couple weeks of the season. And although Denver's defense hasn't played like it so far this year, I do think this is the best defense the Colts have played. Remember, the Colts so far this year, the Chargers. The Chargers so far this year have played the Raiders and the Chiefs. Neither of those defenses are all that great. At least the Chiefs haven't looked that great right now. The Raiders defense isn't that great. The Broncos defense, again, I know they haven't played the best. They gave up 12 points to the Titans, which is solid, but then 29 to the Colts. But I do think that this Broncos defense is still elite, and I think this is the toughest defense the Chargers have played yet this year. I think they're going to be able to slow the Chargers offense down as long as Bo Nix, who has not been great, although he did look a little better in week 2, as long as he can kind of get things going and make a couple extra plays than what he has in the first few weeks, he should be able to keep this game within a field goal. That's the key thing here, is keeping this game within a field goal. I'm not picking the Broncos to necessarily win the game, but I'm hoping they'll be able to keep this game tight and close, which they should be able to do. It's a crazy pick. I know some people are going to judge me for it. I don't really have a lot of numbers to use to go ahead and defend myself here. It's a feeling pick. It's a gut pick. And I'm going with the vibes here. And I know the vibes actually aren't even that good with Denver, but I believe in Sean Payton. I believe in this defense. I believe in Bo Nix. If they lose this game and they go to 0-3 overall, or they go to 0-3 against the spread and 1-2 overall, maybe my opinion will change. But I just have a feeling deep down inside me, this Broncos team will cover the spread, at the very least, maybe even win the game outright. Again, I know you guys are coming here going, this guy's picking with his gut. Not exactly a lot. I usually am a more number-based guy. I'm not using numbers for this. It's a feeling pick, but sometimes you got to go with your feelings. This is one of those games and one of those plays where my feeling is on the Broncos, and I got to go ahead and take it. So Broncos plus 3.5. That's my play here. All right, guys, cruising right along here. We have Cardinals at Niners, 4:25 p.m. kickoff here. We're going with the over 43.5, which is minus 110 over on FanDuel. Both of these teams, honestly, they're a similar level. The Niners should be higher, but because of all the typical Niner injuries that have already occurred, it's brought them down a peg. But these are two teams where the defenses don't, super impress me. The Niners defense hasn't been terrible. They gave up 21 points to the Saints, which, considering who the Saints have, it's a little embarrassing. But they did hold Seattle to 13 points. So, to their credit, the defense has not looked completely awful. But it hasn't looked great either. I don't know. The numbers do look decent. They're tied for 5th in terms of scoring defense. Their rushing yards allowed, passing yards, everything looks decent. But remember, they played Sam Darnold in the Seahawks, where their offensive line's a mess, and they played Spencer Rattler in the Saints. This is the best offense they've played so far this year, and although Cardinals' offense isn't great to begin with, I just see this division game being a bit more sloppy. Now, if you look at the history between these two teams, this over has cashed in, I think, 3 of the last 5. And, the last time these two teams played last year, 71 total points. Both times they met last season, this over hit. So they typical higher scoring games. They're both going to score over 20. I think Mac Jones, my biggest question mark here was Mac Jones and what he would look like in the Niners offense. It started off a little rough, but he did bounce back and ended up throwing for 3 touchdowns and over 250 yards in that game against the Saints. So I actually think the Cardinals defense might be even worse than the Saints defense. I think that the Niners will do a heavy lifting of the scoring, but I think the Cardinals should be able to add at least somewhere around their average of 23 points. If the Cardinals can score anywhere between 21 and 23 points, I expect the Niners are going to be able to at least come close to matching that. So I think this, last year we saw, what was it, 24-23? Was one of the games. I think this is going to be a game where it could be 27-23, 27-24. It's going to be a tight game. It's going to be a close game. But I think both offenses are just good enough, and both defenses have enough weaknesses where I think they're going to be able to go ahead and score a decent amount of points here. So the over, I think, is definitely the smarter play. And you also have the insights provided by Outlier, which do state the over has hit in 4 of the 49ers' last 5 games versus bottom 10 scoring defenses. And again, the Cardinals right now, Their defense, actually their top 10 scoring defense right now. So I don't really know why that insight, unless they're taking the last 10 games into consideration, which I guess that could make sense. But so far this year, the Cardinals gave up 13 to the Saints and 22 to the Panthers. So they're actually not a bad scoring defense. So that insight may not be completely accurate unless you're taking last year's numbers into consideration. Their defense has been good, but again, they played the Panthers and they've played the Saints. So, not exactly offense that will challenge them. I'm expecting points here in this one for sure. All right, guys, we got 3 picks left before we move on to the parlay and teaser portion of today's video. Although I will be honest, I don't have a ton of parlays, more teasers today. But that's okay. We're going to have more parlays as the year goes along. Next up, we have Saints, Seahawks. Again, I've talked a lot of crap on the Saints, but for good reason. To be fair to New Orleans, they actually have played better than I thought. They've been playing up to their competition a little bit more. They kept it within 5 to the Niners, and they kept it within 7 to the Cardinals. So I'm impressed. They've been better than I thought. I thought this team would be an absolute dumpster fire. They're still the worst team in the NFL, but I think they've been better than expected. And I'm going with Seahawks here on the spread -6.5. This defense is just so damn good. Although they have struggled at home, as you can see by this insight. They're 1-7 against the spread in their last 8 games at home, which is a little alarming. Their defense is so dominant. I just don't know how the Saints are going to be able to put up points here. And although the Saints defense hasn't been terrible, 23rd right now in scoring defense, they've been, they're top 20 against both passing yards and rushing yards allowed. I think Seattle should be able to go ahead and move the ball enough on this team. Again, I don't think it's going to be the highest scoring game. This honestly might be a good under bet. That being said, I can see Seattle win this game, I don't know, like 17-10, honestly 2013, how the Saints lost their first game to the Cardinals. I don't think Seattle's going to run up the score necessarily, but their defense will keep New Orleans down in terms of scoring. I think Spencer Rattler is going to make a lot of mistakes in this game. Going to be under immense pressure. The Seahawks could force some extra turnovers here, and I just think the Seattle Seahawks, they're just clearly the better team from top to bottom. -125 over Novik, the value is there. It is just a matter of Seattle is such a better team, and their defense is so strong. I don't see how New Orleans, they got lucky, I guess. I mean, I don't want to call it luck. They played the Niners and the Cardinals, who I don't think are great defenses necessarily, but this is by far the best defense they played so far of the 3 teams they're going to play in the first 3 weeks. I think Seattle can go ahead and score enough to cover this number. So I like the Seahawks on the spread here, -6.5. Second to last pick here, guys, we have Cowboys at Bears, 4:25 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. And I'm going with the Cowboys here with the points +1.5. I don't mind the money line either, but if you're giving me from -113, +1.5, I'll take it. I'll be honest, it feels a bit of a trap line. I'm not sure why Dallas is an underdog in this spot. So far this year, they lost by 4 to the reigning Super Bowl champions on the road in Week 1. And then they won last week. It was a sloppy game, but they did win 40-37 against the Giants. You also have this insight provided by Outlier where they've covered the spread in 6 of their last 9 games, so 6-3 record overall over their last 9 games. I don't think Dallas should be an underdog. Their defense is really bad, guys. It's really, really bad. Russell Wilson threw for almost 500 yards against this defense last week. It's bad, but their offense is legit. Look at the right side of the screen here. Right now, bottom 3 in terms of passing yards allowed per game, 283 yards per game. Bottom 10 in terms of rushing yards allowed, 30th in yards per play. They're not forcing a lot of turnovers. They don't have the pass rush anymore without Micah Parsons around. Although they are 3rd in QB hurries per game, which is impressive. But yeah, tied for 26th in terms of scoring defense. This is not a very good defensive team. But their offense on the flip side, right now, 6th in terms of scoring offense, averaging 30 points per game. This is a top 10 passing team. They're 11th in rushing yards. Remember last year, this Cowboys team could not run the football. Javonte Williams looked pretty damn good the first couple weeks. Yards per play is fine. They're protecting the football for the most part. The offensive lines look pretty good for the most part. They're pretty efficient in the red zone, tied for 1st and 1st down. So their offense is legit. Their defense is pretty damn bad, but their offense is good enough. I just don't. I know they're home, and I know the Bears. They had a couple of flashes. Like Roma Dunze's been pretty damn good, but I'm sorry. Why are the Bears favored in this game? They blew a game to a Vikings team that, after watching Sunday Night Football, that loss is even more disparaging for the Bears because that game. At least you could make the argument after Week 1, hey, maybe this Vikings team is something. And then J.J. McCarthy looks as bad as he did Week 2 versus the Falcons, and it's like, whoa, what is happening here? And then you follow up that loss getting absolutely destroyed by a Lions team that looked dead on arrival against the Packers in Week 1. It's a problem. It's a problem. And it's not even the offense that I'm as much worried about. Their defense is bad. It's very, very, very bad. 27 points to a Vikings team that scored just 6 points against Atlanta, and 52 points to a Lions team that scored just 13 against the Packers. Bottom scoring defense. Their passing defense not very good. Their run defense not good. 32nd in yards per play allowed. I'm just very concerned. Maybe the Cowboys defense could be what the Bears offense needs to go ahead and get going here. But even if Caleb Williams and the Bears offense, they play halfway decent, this defense for Chicago is almost as bad as Dallas's defense, if not worse. So I think Dallas, at the end of the day, this is going to be a tight game maybe. But I think Dallas's offense is just so much better that even if their defense stinks and Caleb Williams has some more success here than he has in the first couple weeks, I'm sorry, this Dallas offense is going to beat the brakes off of them. I don't know if it'd be a blowout maybe. Maybe that was the wrong phrasing there. But you have a Bears team that clearly has a lot of work left to go, and a Cowboys team that's not great, but their offense is seemingly one of the better ones in the league. Dak Prescott's going in for a big year statistically. I just trust the Cowboys a little bit more in this spot. I really do. I think Dak's more experienced. The team's more experienced. I love their offense. One more time, I'll say it again. Their offense is legitimate. And I just think the Bears have too many question marks, specifically on the defensive side of the football. For my liking, no pass rush. I mean, the only thing they have is the third down conversion percentages are okay. Everything else, I mean, they're bottom half of the league. So I like the Cowboys here at the points. Feels a little bit like a trap game for minus 113 on Novik, but I'm going to go ahead and I'll step right into this bear trap. I really don't mind. I'll take Cowboys plus 1.5. All right, guys, in our final straight bet in today's video, we have Lions at Ravens, 8:15 p.m. kickoff on Monday. And by the way, guys, no, I did not forget the Sunday Night Football game. I do these Sunday Night Football picks videos here on the channel, so I won't talk about it here. I'm saving my thoughts for that game for that video. So if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button because that video will be coming out over the weekend for Sunday Night Football. Well, we've got Ravens minus 4.5 at home against the Lions. My final straight bet for this week's video. We're grabbing it from minus 110 over on Novik. Both of these teams, I really have a hard time reading what this game's going to go because Detroit looked really bad in week 1. It looked like, oh man, no Ben Johnson, the offense is going to fall off. And then in week 2, they went nuclear, 52 points against the Bears. But like I just said, that Bears defense, some question marks, okay? Now looking at Baltimore, week 1, they should have won that game. They blew it. Their defense gave up 41 points to the Bills. They followed that up with a dominating win over an inferior opponent in the Browns. So both these teams very similar. The one difference is that even in Baltimore's week 1 loss, they still put up 40 points. Their defense was the question mark, but their offense came to play. I think this game will be very fun. This should be the Sunday Night Football game. I know Chiefs, Giants, and the Chiefs, whatever, but this is the best game of the week, is this one right here. Ravens and Lions. Ultimately, although they did beat the brakes off the Bears, I think Detroit still has some work to do. They have some question marks on both sides of the football right now. Defense looks decent, but their offense, on the other hand, yeah, they had a huge week 2 game, but how much of that was the Bears defense being that bad, and how much of that is the Lions offense will be fine without Ben Johnson? Remains to be seen. I know Baltimore's defense has not looked the best so far this year, but I do think their defense is better than Chicago's at the very least, and definitely they're better offensively. I just think that the Ravens are one of the top 5 teams in the NFL. I think Detroit's just outside of that. I think they're a top 10 team in the league still. I just think Baltimore's on a little bit of a higher tier. I trust Baltimore's offense a little bit more in this spot, and although defensively I have question marks with Baltimore, I still think Baltimore's defense should be able to get the job done. Now, their passing defense has been abysmal so far. A lot of that comes from the Bills game, though. But yeah, I think even if their defense doesn't show up, their offense is just too good. Like, their run defense is one of the best in the league. Their passing offense, although the numbers aren't great, we know they can move the ball if they need to through the air. I do like their weapons. DeAndre Hopkins, Tez Walker, some of the new guys they brought in. I'm liking it. It'll be a fun one. A lot of fireworks are expected in this game because, again, I don't know too much about Detroit's defense. Their numbers are all fine, not great, nothing really to write home about. I just trust Baltimore a little bit more in this spot here at minus 4.5. All right, guys, now going to wrap up with the parlay and teaser portion of today's video. Again, going to go light on the parlays today, kind of more heavier on the teasers. We'll have 3 teasers and just 1 parlay in this week's video. And by the way, guys, I know we don't have any player props here, but don't worry. On Sunday morning at 9:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to go live and do our NFL player prop show. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel and ready for that live stream. So I know we don't do player props on here anymore on the Oracle, but we're going to go through plenty of player props over on our live show on Sunday. So make sure to go ahead and check that out and don't miss out on that live stream. All right, guys, starting off with parlays. Like I said, just 1 parlay this week. I'm taking it easy on the parlays to start the year off. Probably next week we'll kind of up the parlays again. Last week I went a little too crazy with them and we got burned. Just 1 parlay this week. It's a simple 4-leg parlay plus 124 odds. We're going some of the teams that obviously are heavy favorites, but the teams I think are definitely winning these games. Packers, Bills, Seahawks, and Chiefs money line. You parlay all 4 of those together, it's plus 124. I know it's not the biggest payout, and for plus 124 for a 4-leg parlay, you might not think it's worth it. I just think ultimately these are teams that are not going to lose in week 1 or week 3, I should say. And I'd be shocked if any of these teams lose. So for plus 124 for teams I think are pretty much locks, I think it's a good value. All right, guys, now moving on to the teasers. We have a 3-leg teaser, 7-point tease, plus 120 odds. These are, again, kind of taken, again, based off that parlay. Some of the games where I think these teams should definitely cover the spread in general. But you add the teaser here, it gets even more valuable. So 7-point teaser, plus 120 odds, 3-leg tease. We're taking Packers now, minus 1.5 versus the Browns. Again, they should destroy the Browns, but taking some insurance there. Bills minus 5.5, just win by a touchdown and you're good. And Cowboys plus 5.5. Even if the Bears do somehow win this game, as long as Dallas can keep the game close, which they should be able to with that offense, we have a cash here. All right, guys, next up, our second teaser, we have the total tease, which I'm taking a bunch of totals and just teasing them. Now I'm doing a 5-leg teaser, 6.5-point tease, so it's plus 290 over on DraftKings. We have the over in the Cardinals-Niners game, taking 6.5 points off, taking it down to 38. For the over, we have the under 48 for the Seahawks and the Saints. We have the under 51 for Texans and Jaguars, the under 51 for Pats Steelers, and the over 37 for Falcons and Panthers. Again, 5-leg teaser, 6.5-point tease, plus 290 odds. I already like the totals as they are, but we're taking pretty much an extra touchdown, either added or taken off from these totals. And last but not least, guys, the big tease. As always, guys, that we did last week, we'll do it again every week of the season. We do our big teaser, which is a 13-point teaser, 4 legs, minus 140 odds. If this teaser hits, one lucky commenter who comments the big tease down below will win a free $25 Amazon gift card. And again, it's minus 140, so it's projected to hit. You're going to win more often than you aren't on these. So if you do enter that contest down below, one lucky commenter will win a free $25 gift card if the teaser hits. So 4-leg teaser, 13-point tease, minus 140 odds. We have Rams, who you're not getting at plus 16.5 against the Eagles. I don't think the Eagles kill them that way. You have Texans plus 14.5. They can literally lose by 2 touchdowns. They still cover the spread. Chiefs plus 7. They lose the game as long as they keep it within a touchdown. We're fine. And Packers plus 4.5. They can even lose the game as long as they don't lose by more than a field goal. We should be good to go again. So 4 legs, 13-point teaser, minus 140 odds, coming big tease down below for your chance to win. And guys, that is it for me today. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. One more time, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. Helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. Until next week, I hope you're all winners. Make sure to tune into all of our stuff we have coming on this week. We have Sunday Night Football picks, my live stream on Sunday, college football, Ev's picks, Trey's picks, everything. Make sure to go ahead and check all that out, guys. Until next time, hope you're all winners. Let's go ahead and make some money.